Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of the Pixel Crashers Podcast, a podcast where we discuss our thoughts on gaming news. Together, I am Angelus de Mortiel, together with Kev the Gamer.
Fallout is coming!
MajorStupidity.
What's up, everyone?
And Death Shroud 09.
Nah.
Something about Dota.
Nope, it's all about that Humble Bundle hype train you were talking about before we started.
Yeah.
Apparently so. So as always, let's go ahead and get started with the games we've been playing. So Kev, why don't you talk about what we've been playing?
I wrapped up the Uncharted collection. And that's awesome because it's going to help me get Fallout 4 for free. Because Best Buy gave me $38 for it. Then they owe me 10, and I'm a part of the Gamers Club, so that's going to make up the other 12. I'm getting free Fallout. It's awesome. Other than that, I beat Life is Strange, and I did Tales from the Borderlands and Splinter Cell. Splinter Cell Blacklist. I finished all those games this week.
That's pretty awesome.
I've been busy.
Yeah.
I gotta play through Tales from the Borderlands now that it's actually done.
It's good. It's not the best Telltale series, but I like it. I think Game of Thrones was stronger.
Yeah.
But a lot of people really prefer Borderlands. As long as you're not playing Minecraft story mode, because I'm like...
Minecraft story mode. Oh my.
People are saying it's really good. But I'm like,
I was
ready for Walking Dead. I was ready for Walking Dead Season 3, and they're not giving me what I'm craving.
Which is
I feel like
Fallout 4.
Well, that too. I'm really craving some more time with Clementine.
I just feel
that's
like
what I'm craving.
The Minecraft story mode, it's not targeted towards us. It's not targeted.
I don't know who it's targeted toward. Like, my son loves not Fallout. He loves Minecraft, and he's even scratching his head looking at this game. Like, I can't build anything. Why do I want to play this?
It is weird.
It's definitely a strange game. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I was confused when I heard about that. I was like, isn't that defeat the purpose of Minecraft?
Yeah,
but I'm hearing that it's actually really good.
Because Minecraft, the whole idea is you craft your own story, right?
Telltale are still good writers. If they can come up with a good story, all right. It's just something where it's like, definitely unexpected. We'll have to see how it turns out once it's all completed.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, Terraria's developers are actually making a more story-based game as well. So it's
rather than the grind fest of Terraria. Well, it's not the worst grind fest, honestly, but there's definitely some grinding in that.
I'm not saying there's not room for story. It's just
building, right? Terraria also has if you do it.
It's not that there's no room for story. It's just Telltale is a very heavily story-based kind of development.
Well, I don't know, Major. Have you for a very long time now, Minecraft animated videos have been a thing?
Oh, I know they have. Like
Semiclow and stuff.
They're not my thing, but I know they exist.
Yeah, they've existed, and they've been some pretty good quality ones, honestly. So it's not unprecedented at all.
I know it's still just there's so many other IPs. It just felt like kind of odd. Like it's.
But this is an IP with a very very large dedicated user base. So.
Yeah,
I'm not going to stop judging.
It feels like the user base of
Minecraft is about punching trees, guys. Just so you know.
So it's Ark Survival, and it does it better.
Yeah, I don't know that. I'm not sold on.
I mean, Minecraft's good for what it is. I actually do play it, but it's like
I can't.
Well, we know Morty doesn't play early access games, so there's that.
I can't.
Minecraft isn't early access.
Minecraft's done now.
No, I was talking about Ark.
Yeah, I have a
refund Ark.
There's very few cases where I will actually buy into an early access game just because I'm like, I want the full experience. It's kind of like what's that one game? I can't remember the name of. Darkest Dungeon.
A really compelling argument, which you're going towards in that it's something where it's like a lot of people are like, I'd rather wait because I don't want to play the game before it's ready and get burned out on playing it.
Exactly.
For it being completed. Yeah, there's that argument I completely concede.
Yeah, that's where I went with Darkest Dungeon, right? That game is great and fantastic, but I don't want to touch it yet because they're adding a lot of cool shit to it.
It's been a while since I looked at that
game. Joe, so what have you been playing?
Well, I've actually been starting up another playthrough of Dead Space. It's been a while since I played the original one. and I don't know, I just got in the mood to play it since game.
We never finished our playthrough of Dead Space 3.
We
started
didn't.
at like 6. We started like 6 months ago, and then I think The
Mass
Witcher
Effect
happened.
3.
No, we started playing Dark Souls.
No, it was Mass Effect 3. We started playing Mass Effect 3 again, and then we just,
Mm-hmm. I think it was that or it was Dark Souls. We started playing Dark Souls.
Dark
and it was
Souls
funny because
later, but yeah, it was Mass Effect 3. You, me, and Canada started playing that again.
Huh. But what's this Mass Effect game you guys are talking about? I've never heard of it before.
I know, right?
We should go and play and finish Dead Space 3 though, because that was.
I'd want to start over because I don't even remember. I was having trouble keeping up anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's Dead Space 3 is probably the weakest out of all of them for the story, but it's mainly the fact that the gameplay is fun, and I love the gun crafting.
The gameplay mechanics were amazing.
Yeah, I enjoy it for it being a very action shooter kind of game. It's not even a horror game anymore.
Right, I might go back and play the originals when I find some.
Yeah, the original's a lot of fun. It's after a while, it's not really that scary because it does very much like to do the. Here's the necromorph that's so scary, and we're gonna have it come out of a vent right in front of you with loud music.
Oh yeah, like Resident Evil 2 did back in the day.
It's after a while, it's like they're no longer scary because you go into a room and it's like, oh, here's a big room. I see a bunch of vents on the wall. Oh, there goes the music. All right, let's prepare.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the gameplay's fun. I enjoy the mechanics, and I enjoy how they did the HUD in the original Dead Space.
So aside from that, you've been playing anything else?
Warframe. That's about it.
What's that Warframe game you're playing? I've never heard of that before.
Oh, it's a peasant game. We don't need to talk about that game.
Oh, peasant game that has hundreds of thousands of people playing it.
I have a flamethrower, and it's not trash.
I might add, a game that runs on 60 frames per second at full HD on consoles. What? I'm sorry. Your argument's invalid.
Warframe now has a flamethrower.
Man, I would love to know how these Warframe developers do what they do in terms of optimization, and I want them to talk to every single AAA game developer and teach them how it's done.
It's Canadian superpowers.
These free-to-play nonsense developers are somehow gods at.
It's because they have that Canadian mojo.
They don't have the level of detail, I think, and the need to push graphics. That
I don't know,
but it's got great graphics to it, though.
Warframe can do awesome detail, bloom, lighting, shadows.
It looks pretty good for.
Yeah, it doesn't have like the aesthetics. It doesn't have like the aesthetics to say like an Assassin's Creed or.
It doesn't realistically need it though in the settings that it has.
Set pieces.
Yeah, with
the reason
they
do.
That's kind of
usually generated maps.
Yeah, the thing is that one of the things that I noticed about and kind of experience a lot of Warframe. I actually was watching my brother-in-law play it on his Xbox One, and I was like, "This looks damn good!" Like, it looks really good, like the same as it does on the PC. I was amazed, and it's not that they downgraded; they didn't downgrade the PC.
No, they just made it so that it was easy to port everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that they're one of the few developers. They've got potatoes in their studio, like horrible piece of junk computers that they actually play tested on. You know, that's actually
impressive. Kind of the way to go, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I would guarantee you probably not, because I mean, even NVIDIA, when they test their game ready drivers, they openly admit they're testing out in like a 980 Ti.
Yeah, and that's how they get it. And that's why we get so many games that are like, oh, like Fallout 4, you probably don't need a 780 to actually max it out.
No.
You look at it, like you're not going to need that. But because so many developers play test on 780s and 680s and 980s, that everybody now thinks, oh, well, I need that to play every game, and I have to upgrade every 6 months.
Yeah,
that game should probably be fine on a 960. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah, it'll run on a 960 smooth as
well,
as long as you're at 1080p. If you go above 1080p, then things start to go down.
I wouldn't even try a 960 at above 1080p.
Exactly. They specifically state that it's for 1080. It's been engineered to design that. But let's not get too off topic on that. Travis, what have you been playing on your super high end gaming laptop
I've been playing 2 games that don't require a super high-end gaming laptop.
Isn't it always funny how we do that?
The
High-end
one,
rates to play Terraria.
yeah. Laugh all you like.
Oh,
Laugh all you like.
No. I'm not knocking you. I'm saying the most popular games on PC run on potatoes. Like run well
Yeah.
on potatoes.
Well, yeah. pretty
Travis, I should play Terraria with you because I just found out that Kev has it.
Oh, yeah, we can.
I don't like it.
Oh, okay. All right, back to me and my games. I've been playing a game called One Way Heroics, which is this. I think I've told.
I think I have
Major
it.
about it before. Yeah, it's basically like a procedurally generated, top-down Zelda type RPG / roguelike, and it's turn-based.
Anyone
but
else
it's
get
got this
mic
weird
problems?
twist
Yeah,
on it.
he's starting to break up a
Yeah,
lot.
a little bit.
So we're just gonna go ahead and boot
you guys
Travis
are-
out.
You guys are too.
Who?
What?
And there it is.
From all of you. There's something wrong with my mic.
Yeah, I'm hearing from everybody now.
Yeah, who?
Yeah, same.
Oh, good time. So we're this is now the Audio Crashers podcast because now apparently we're all crashing our audio. Let's see if we can clean
Everybody
this up
sounds like slow talking robots.
a bit.
What is going on? Yeah, this is.
Oh, anyway, so let's try to move on. If we need to, we may try to fix the technical issues there. But in the meantime, so essentially we have what was it that you were playing, the roguelike?
Yeah, it's like a top-down roguelike type thing. Kind of looks like an old Zelda style thing. Turn-based movement and fighting, and it's got a twist in that every turn scrolls the screen from right to left, and that basically represents the darkness engulfing the world. So you have to balance moving and fighting and doing actions with moving away from the darkness, and it pushes you to the right, the right side of the screen until you can, complete whatever the goal of the campaign that you're doing is, either killing the boss or getting as far as you can, etc., etc. It's got certain things like, you can play things that I believe you can play maps that people have made, and they have special events, and it's it's a cheap, fun game if you want to relive your old Mario days of side-scrolling frustration. And Joe's mic is...
Yeah, Joe's having all sorts of issues there. Keep hearing his mic static it up. But in any case, so that's pretty awesome. Was that the second game or the first game you said you were playing?
That was the first game. The second game I just started recently was Had a Full Boyfriend, which I don't know if you guys know what that is.
Are you essentially trying to be the Dodger of our podcast? Is that what's going on here?
I mean, let's be honest. If anyone was, it would probably be me. I'm probably the only one who actually plays through visual novels and shit.
I was about to say, I don't even know what either of these games are.
All right. I think Major, do you want to explain to him what Had a Full Boyfriend is?
It's a parody of basically dating sim / visual novels, in that it's one of those where it's like, you play as. Do you play as a woman or a man in Had a Full Boyfriend?
I think you play as a woman in this.
Okay, but it's basically. It's one of those where it's like, you got to choose, the one that you want to go out with and go spend time with them. But it's birds. Like, all the characters are different species of birds.
And pigeons.
It's a giant parody.
You're going to the prestigious Saint Pigeon Nations Institute.
It's pretty funny.
A school for talented birds.
You can only see the look on my face right now. Like the shit y'all play.
And chat's all about the 70s porn stash, so that's an important thing.
Speaking of porn stash, Orange is the New Black is still awesome.
No, they don't know about your little icon in Skype. That's the Fallout guy who's actually African American and has a '70s porn stash. But
I put it on my channel too. So if you see that, then yeah,
awesome.
I actually shout out to Anchorman, the Anchorman Beak. I've been trying to get him on here for a couple weeks. I asked him to make that for me like a couple weeks ago. I said, "Give me a Black Vault Boy."
Nice,
and he
nice.
put it together for me in like an hour.
That's pretty awesome. Well, and the fact of that I was creating a character in Fallout New Vegas that they're watching on the gameplay footage that has a 70 porn stash. So
good, you're playing.
But you can never see the porn stash because you always look at his back or you're in first person.
Right? I feel like I was a little let down by that. But as far as this week, obviously I've been playing Fallout New Vegas because Fallout New Vegas. And I also obviously been playing this other game, something war, something frame. Can't remember what that game's called. You're Space Ninjas, unless you're playing with the Space Pirate.
Warhammer, that's what it was.
Oh, that's another
Warhammer
game.
Vermintide, that's what it was. That's what you've been playing.
Well, I wanna get Warhammer Total War. I'm just saying. I love my Total War games and Warhammer 40K.
It was on the Humble Bundle not too long ago.
No, it hasn't come out yet. Warhammer Total War is not out yet.
Morty, you play Vermintide?
No, I haven't actually. I need to do that.
I want to know if it's good or not. I'm a sucker for the Warhammer setting, and like I wish there was more of it. So yeah.
I've never played a Warhammer game, but that game looks amazing.
Yeah, I'm starting to get into it. I'll admit, I wasn't big into Warhammer 40K because I have trouble getting into some tabletop games, and that's pretty much where it was. But there's so much to it. So much to Warhammer 40K, and it looks like Creative Assembly is, that it looks like it's going to be a great game. But
right, I was looking at Vermintide. It looks like Left 4 Dead with melee weapons.
Well, the Vermintide, I'm not sure about that one. I know the Total War, I'm really sold on because it's essentially the first time that the Total War series is existing outside the normal world. So I'm kind of excited. They've always been like Shogun or medieval or Rome. It's always Earth. Historical setting. But
well, they have some futuristic ones too, don't they? I've heard of some futuristic ones.
Well, there's other.
I don't really follow the series.
There's other real-time strategies, but I don't think Total War has ever made.
It really makes a lot of sense given what Total War is. The Warhammer setting and just the general feel of Warhammer makes a lot of sense for Total War.
Yeah. But so that's what I'm looking at. But that's not a game I've played. That's a game I want. But anyway, let's go ahead and get moving on to the first topic for the day, and this one's a interesting one. Sony recently admitted that they're considering a higher power version of the PS4, seeing it the first open consideration to the main console market for hardware upgrades. And a lot of people are rightfully thinking this may cause a divide in the PS4 community because, well, Nintendo did the similar thing with their DS. They had the 3DS and then the new 3DS, which was the same thing but with a better processor to it. And
whoever came up with that marketing just needs to quit right now, please.
Yeah, that was a horrible design, and unfortunately, there's games out there the new 3DS can play all of the backwards games, all the way back to the beginning, but only the new 3DS can play new 3DS games because of the higher horsepower it has. And that's kind of the concern with the PS4 is that essentially you get the PS4 Ultra or whatever they would call it, can play all the new PS4 games, and then, the old PS4 owners are just kind of sitting in the dark. They get nothing. Right. So what do you guys think? Let's start with Joe there. What do you think about this?
It's a legitimate fear. I can definitely see it where it's if you have a more powerful system and you develop games with a more powerful system, isn't it likely that your game I don't know, it's something weird where it's a lot of the games that come out for the current PS4, it's they're either playing at 1080p 30 frames or 720 or 900p, 60 frames. It's like
you don't usually most of the PS4 games are 1080p, like 90% of them. What you're thinking of is
30 frames, isn't it?
Hopefully, like it's 30 frames, but the frame rate's all over the place.
Now, here's the thing: if the games that come out can play on both versions of the PS4, but on the high power version they play at 1080p 60 frames consistently and they don't drop, but you can still play them on the old, the lower end model at 30 frames. I feel like that's not too bad because it's kind of like there's the option for people who care about frame rate can pay more for it while still playing on their console.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people realize they did that on the 360 too, and I actually experienced that because I had one of the old white Xboxes. I didn't know about the updates or anything. I didn't really follow it like that. And I remember what was it, the Omega DLC for Mass Effect 3. I buy it, I'm playing it, and all of a sudden I get to a part where the old white Xboxes just can't run it. And I had to go get one of the newer ones. I got the black one that came with Skyrim, the 250 gig hard drive, just to be able to finish the DLC I bought.
That's kind of strange. Like they're with Xbox 360, and I know this from kind of experience. There wasn't a huge amount of difference. There was slight upgrades. Most of it was to power efficiency and cooling. But
that's what I thought too.
Yeah, like
when I called Microsoft, that's what they told me specifically. The white ones, there was a slight boost in CPU power that made it so that the old ones couldn't play through some games and some digital content toward the end of the generation.
Yeah, and that's
from Microsoft support.
And that's the thing is that I remember because whenever I was researching things, and this was even with the original Xbox, but I was researching, there were slight different manufacturers of the different models of Xbox and Xbox 360 that had slight variations to their quality. I remember with, I think it was the Xbox, there was like the coveted Falcon chipset or something like there, whatever. It was manufactured a little later by a different company that put together the original Xbox, and it was supposedly better. The main difference in there was actually the disc player was better quality because Xboxes had notorious problems for their disc drives breaking. But
mine isn't working currently, actually.
Yeah, like my brother and I think we tore apart multiple Xboxes in trying to fix the disk drives in those. But Xbox 360, on the other hand, had the main thing is if you got the newer one, it had the side vent for better cooling. And that was the main thing. I don't know. To me, the whole PS4 thing, I would not be opposed to an upgraded model, something that's a little bit better, a little cleaner, but it's like I don't know. To me, it's like you should find a way to do that doesn't alienate your player base. Right. They're still outselling Xbox One, so they're doing great for sales. Maybe just wait a couple years and then release the PS5. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is an inherent problem in closed proprietary systems, right? So
yeah,
it's the fact that consoles have such long lifespans. If you look at, say cell phones, where a new more powerful version comes out basically every year, it's, consoles are pretty lucky to have it, have such long life cycles.
I mean, not necessarily, kind of. When you think about it, it's like the average console cycle. Let's not talk about the 360 and the PS3. Those are anomalies. Mm-hmm. The average console cycle is about 5-6 years. You can stretch a PC to 5-6 years. You can make that work if you want to. It's about your...
Conceivably.
You what?
I said conceivably, yes.
Yeah, you can. Like, there's people out there on, PCs from 2009 playing The Witcher. And you can look at the benchmarks.
I will point out, just for the sake of argument, it's really hard to say an average console life cycle because you have the Dreamcast life cycle was
3 years.
Yeah, 3 years.
Because Sega killed it.
Yeah, but at the same time, the PS2 was a decade or something like that.
They supported it for a decade, but
Oh, there's games being made, which I kind of see as being supported.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about like where it's like the main attraction platform. Like it was in its prime. It was where it was the go-to console for about 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then the PS3 came out in 2006.
Which is
you were still
still
getting
quite
like
a
your
long
sports
time.
games.
That's still quite a long time if you think about like in terms of technological development. Like 6 years, that's a long time.
Yeah, it is.
It is considered that now, but
hell, a year is a long time in the technology world.
Yeah, it is now, but 10, 15 years ago, that wasn't necessarily the case.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
You think so? You think 5-6 years?
When did Intel start their TikTok development process? Where literally every year originally Intel was doing every 2 years they would have something new, and then they truncated that TikTok process to being every year. Tick on 1 year, talk the next year. Every year they had something going up. And there was, I'm trying to remember when the quote was made, but at one point in time, like someone made a quote or something to the effect of technology progresses like the rate at which technology advances doubles every so many years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of one that throws it off a bit. But as far as it goes, I do think the life cycles for consoles are really long, and people have come to expect that. So it's not exactly like you can just all of a sudden say, hey, the PS4 is done in 3 years. Because people will be furious.
It's like the NX. People are talking about, they'll be pissed off if the NX comes out next year. Because,
the thing is
Wii U is
3 years old. Like 4 years old now?
3. It came out late 2012.
Okay, so
holiday 2012.
Yeah, it's 3 years old now. And it's like people are thinking they're going to be upset with the NX. First of all, we don't even know what the NX is, but
right.
Yeah, but
it's not like the Wii U was like a mountain of a console, right?
Well, if you think about it, the Wii U is like slightly behind the Xbox One. We're talking like 1-2 million sales from last reports from both.
Yeah.
The Wii U is like just behind it, and the Xbox One selling in terms of like normal console sales is actually selling really well. It's just the PS4 is insane right now.
Yeah, it's just I think you have the mixture of the actual the player base is expanding, mixed with you have in general a huge demand increase in video game consoles. They're becoming a much bigger thing than they used to be whenever like the PS3 launched. That and the fact that the PS3 launched, it had horrible pricing, kind of like the Xbox did when it launched this generation.
Mm-hmm. That's actually what pushed me to the 360.
Yep.
I was a PlayStation guy. I had the 1, I had the 2. I was going to get the 3. And then I saw that $600 price tag, saw games looked better on the 360 anyway. Got a 360.
Yeah, I can hear that. I mean, I kind of always been all over the place, back and forth on both of them, so I kind of have, yeah. I've been like, hey, I play Sony, I play Nintendo, I play, Xbox, PlayStation. I don't care what.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm that way too. I'm not biased. Like I have both of them now. I've been playing Uncharted all week. I'll get Halo when I get around to getting Halo, but it's like, yeah, games are games, and games are great. Like, give me a good game. I don't care about the plastic.
Yep. But let's go ahead and get moving on to our second one. This will be one that all of you guys should be, excited about. Well, I shouldn't say excited because the topic is not so exciting. Bethesda deems that Fallout for PC can be sold completely on physical mediums because of piracy. Essentially, the disc that you buy, if you buy a physical disc for Fallout 4 for PC, you're getting the installer, not the full game. This is not necessarily a new move for them or for other companies. A lot of other ones do that, but it's usually for just space-saving things. But my question is, if you're going to sell just an installer on the disc, why even bother selling the disc at all? People can just... if they're going to have to download the game anyway, why not just sell it purely digital?
Yeah. How big is the download? Because I know they said they're going to have 4.7... Something
like that.
One more time, Joe?
It's like 20-something gigs.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you're giving us a fourth of the game. That's a waste of your time. That's a waste of our time.
The big problem is that like even as someone who in my rig, I don't even have a physical disk drive, but even I can see that there's people who aren't in a position where it's easy for them to download games. Like you have a lot of the bullshit ISPs, with their arbitrary, oh,
Data
you're
caps.
limited to 300 gigabytes a month, because we don't want to upgrade our infrastructures. Anyway, so those people have a limited amount of what they can download, and for them, they can go and buy the physical disc, and it saves them from having to download the game, or maybe their connection's slow, maybe they can't pay for a real high-end connection, so maybe they want to be able to just buy the disc and play the game and not have to wait for it to download on day
Alright,
one.
So I want to know is like realistically, how much of how much is this going to help? The game is most likely going to be cracked within within 2 weeks, and that's
giving it that long?
generous. Yeah,
I'm
and
not even.
I give it
thinking
48
weeks.
hours.
Like,
And that's
let's
being
look
generous.
at even the games that have been doing the whole de novo thing. The latest DM or DRM thing, where it's been like, oh, this is our latest step to fighting piracy. It's super hard to crack. Even with de novo, a game, I think Metal Gear Solid 5 had a crack within a week. Even the first games that were using de novo, which should have been the hardest ones to crack, Dragon Age Inquisition had a crack within 3 weeks. You're not gonna do it. Like, fighting piracy is pointless. You're not gonna be able to do it.
All right, so back to what I was saying. It was going to be within like 2 weeks, probably, that they're where it's gonna crack this. All right. So what does putting it on having the physical disc being on an installer? The only thing that I can think of is are they worried about people,
physical disc piracy?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like physical disc piracy, is that a thing still? Is that still a thing?
In other parts of the world, it is. Believe it or not. Now, I don't know about PC. Here's the thing. I know in Brazil,
the parts of the world that it's still a problem, are the parts of the world that realistically, they can't get some of these games digitally, so that's why they physically.
Well, I know for Brazil, a big part of it is the absolutely ludicrous tariffs and archaic import laws and such.
Well, yeah, it's a service issue, and the thing is that you always you always go to that classic fallacy of piracy does not equal a lost sale, and trying to essentially institute more difficult measures to fight piracy, better DRM or what have you. People are always going to circumvent it because you're always one step behind the malicious, hackers and that sort of thing in the world. The real thing is, this is my main point on it, is, the most you do when you kind of make a decision like what Bethesda did, and this isn't a new decision. They made this decision with Skyrim. It tends to annoy people because you're essentially telling them that because somebody out there is nefarious and does something bad, that therefore you're being punished. Some people really like their physical copies. I myself prefer digital. I like the convenience of it, even on consoles. I was excited whenever consoles were moving to pure digital format. I loved it because I don't have to pop a disc in and out of my console. I just click on an icon.
Plus the people who realistically can't really it's hard for them to be able to download all their games. It's
either they have really slow speeds or they have those data caps. Yeah,
Bethesda's basically telling those guys, "Fuck you. We need to fight pirates."
Well, I mean, even for somebody like me, I like physical. Like most of my console games, I get them physically. On PC, if you can if I can get it on a good price physical, I'll get it physical. Over digital.
If it's cheaper, I'll get it physical.
Yeah. If it's the same price, I'll go physical.
It's just very rarely cheaper physical.
Dragon Age Inquisition.
It's almost always cheaper physical if you wait.
Dragon Age Inquisition, it was cheaper getting the physical thing than buying digital.
Yeah,
yeah.
I guess it does depend on the time. Eventually, I usually see digital being less than physical, but
yeah, it's usually around market. It's usually around Christmas and holiday seasons.
Which I of course have always had the argument of. It really annoys me whenever they're like, hey, we're going to charge the same price for a digital copy. And it's like, why? Because you have less manufacturing costs for a digital copy. Now, consoles, that is a little bit different because the publisher actually has to pay Microsoft, as I understand, to actually host the game on Microsoft systems. I'm not sure of that. They might do
PlayStation charges that 2 plus licensing to be just on the console.
Yeah, I think they do, because that whenever they submit it to CERT, they have to, I think, pay a fee for that or something like. I know they do it with DLC too.
Morty,
they do with patches.
Morty,
like
I think it's along the same lines of the reason why sometimes things online are priced the same amount in both U.S. dollars and whatever other currency.
Yeah,
despite their
euros.
Despite there being actual differences between how much those currencies are actually worth. It's either incompetence or laziness or.
Well, no, I know the reason why they're the same price in those different currencies, because the first thing is you have to realize perspective. So just because the euro, for example, is worth more than the US dollar, if I am in Germany, let's say, things are it does not mean just because the euro is worth more that somehow that means that your euro stretches farther in European countries. A $60 video game or a €60 video game, in those countries they're seen as being equatable prices for the amount of money you're making, the cost of living in there. So even though, yes, a euro is worth more, in those localized countries, they're the same price. You know what I mean? That's not necessarily the same thing as saying, hey, when you digitally distribute something, you have less manufacturing costs involved. The main reason why is because any of the digital distribution platforms tend to have their own fees tacked on top of it, except for EA games, because they own their own digital distribution platform. So they literally have no excuse for charging the same price for digital games. They're literally just pocketing extra profit.
Yeah, except for being EA, right? That's their excuse for
exactly.
EA.
Well, I mean, but that's why we don't. I don't know. I shop at key shops. I shop at Green Man Gaming and CDT prices almost exclusively. Unless it's a Steam sale or EA having a good deal, or I can find a physical copy at Best Buy for cheap.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to do it. I mean, I got Diablo 3, and granted, I waited a year and a half to get it, but I got it for $5 at GameStop. Yeah. Physical. That was cheaper than paying the $20 to Blizzard directly.
But I guess really where I'm coming from though is the price of digital versus physical is if you're not really going to sell a physical copy, then why bother selling it at all? Because people who do have those internet troubles like data caps or poor download speeds, they're going to be just as boned as if you were purely digital. Why even bother selling the disc?
Right, and then there's guys like me. I prefer to install off a disc. For me, it's just a little faster and more convenient. Just pop a disc in, let it go, and walk away.
It's actually slower.
Is it?
Think about it.
Maybe it's because I'm doing other things.
Well, no. Think about it this way. I'm in Steam. I click buy, go through my transaction process. Bam! It's bought. It's downloading. Buying the disc. Drive to the store. Buy disc from store. Come home. Insert disc into drive.
I wasn't thinking about all that deep. I'm talking about once I have the disc in my hand and I put it in there.
I'm talking
because I put it in there, push the thing in, let it go. And I mean, you could do that with digital too, but I don't know.
Digital, you have to put in codes too, don't you?
Yeah, if you buy directly from the digital platform, then no, you don't. But if you buy the disc, essentially, as far as I understand, how the disc works is, I don't even know if it's just an installer. From what I understand, it's packaged with a Steam key.
The most digital game or most physical games that I buy from a PC has the Steam code in it because you need it to activate it. But you can just install it from the disc completely if you want to, or you can use the digital installer. So it's your choice. Yeah. So to me, it's I like having the both. Sometimes I just like having the cases around. I like having that game collection I can look at.
So essentially, you are more of the trophy whore than anything. You just like being able to say, look at my grand collection of games on this bookshelf. And everybody's looking at you like, yeah, but what's your Steam library? And then you're like, but look at these grand discs that I have on this shelf.
Well, my Steam library, we all know, is way bigger than my physical library.
Yeah, but and you know what's nice about that is, as long as you maintain your Steam account and don't get it hacked or whatever, you don't necessarily have to have all of those installed. Like how, now granted that is inconvenient because if you want to play said game, then you have to download it and then install it again. But
have you seen my Steam collection? I can't do that. I have close to 500 games.
yeah, exactly. But the thing is that gives you the option to not necessarily have to have everything on there. Whereas I'll just throw it out there, physical discs, you're gonna have to manage space for that. I've known some people with some pretty extensive game collections, like where they had 3 full bookshelves of game discs, and I'm like, can't do that. Sorry, I'm no. It's the
what you do is you go to their house with your laptop, pull out your
hard drive,
your 6 terabyte hard drive, and sit it down on their table, and just be like.
I like doing, especially for like series like I love like the Batman Arkham series. I'd love to get all those physical, and I have the digital copies. I just like for games that like I love. I'd like to have physical copies of those.
But what about the
physical copies? Physical copies. Okay. Physical copies, I think, still have a place in certain ways. And I think they're fun in ways that a lot of game developers have forgotten. For me, the big thing is like the old chest sets that they used to sell.
Warcraft?
Like Warcraft or like the Diablo 2 chest set was amazing.
Yeah, it was.
Like things like that, and if you can make them really nice looking and really like extravagant and have all sorts of little goodies in it, and then also have the physical in there with it, I feel that's very compelling as a consumer.
Now I'm all for the swag, like whenever you get a game come out, like I don't necessarily always have the budget for it, but I'll throw it out there whenever you see like the Ultimate Edition. Usually it's like $100 to $150.
I put emphasis
Bitboy Edition for Fallout 4, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
I will put emphasis on it being physical stuff, not stuff in game.
No. I'm talking like what was it?
I'm totally
Halo
okay
3,
with physical stuff.
Halo 3 the Master Chief Edition or whatever had the actual Spartan helmet.
That's cool. I'm
all for the swag. That's
fine. But Joe, you don't like your horse armor?
Oh God, don't. And you know what? I guarantee. Watch. They're gonna put horse armor out in Fallout 4. You just watch.
Oh no,
it's gonna be dog armor. Sorry, dog armor.
Because I'm getting it from Best Buy because I want the socks.
5 has that.
They're giving out socks, and I want the socks for Fallout 4.
I actually wouldn't mind a Pip-Boy, but obviously they're all gone already, including the guy that got it.
They actually started selling them again.
Huh?
They started selling them again, and then I think they still have some.
Like those physical bonuses are also a big thing of Kickstarters, for example. They get a lot of their big people who put a lot of money towards a Kickstarter project. Not only are they supporting the game, by putting down a larger donation, but it's also usually they'll have like nice collector's stuff, and they'll have stuff that really nice swag thrown in there.
Sell some T-shirts, sell some hats, man. That physical merch, people eat it up.
People Japan does it with anime. The entire anime market.
You heard it here first, folks. The Pixel Crasher podcast merch will be available soon. Joe's gonna hand stitch it all for us.
That's actually a legitimate thing. Not gonna lie, like.
We're gonna have all the sweatshirts that are gonna say PCP in big letters on it, and people will buy it, and cops will stop them and be like, "So,
I do
drugs?
PCP while watching PC."
Morty, I can personally attest to owning merchandise from 3 different Twitch shows. So
yeah, no, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Oh hell, I'd love to sell merch, but you have to have an infrastructure set up for that.
I go around town and see Funhouse shirts all over the place, and I'm like, that's awesome. I love Funhouse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but let's go ahead and get moving on here. Let's get on to our third story, also more fun. So this is kind of a bit more abstract, but it's kind of come to a point a bit more with Valve, and kind of they've been engaging in kind of bizarre behavior. It's been a slow process, but they've been essentially kind of jacking around people with Dota 2 seems specifically, although there's a little bit of it in Team Fortress as well, where you have 3 different methods whenever you have a paid item in the game. There's 3 methods of transactions that you can do. You can trade it with someone, you can put it on a market, or you can actually gift it to someone. And years ago, you could do all of those things with any paid item you got, all the cosmetics or whatever in the game. You could do it with all of them. But now, and then it started where certain things would have random restrictions on them, like being able to trade or market them, which was initially claimed to be due to kind of concerns of like piracy, like your account getting hacked and people selling or like dumping all of your stuff to another account. But they then have now, for a lot of the things, are restricted on anything. Not just, you can't gift it, you can't trade it, you can't put it on a market, nothing. Which essentially screws a lot of those people that actually make some money with the stuff they get on there. So I guess where my question is that can this be blamed on people that are scamming accounts, or is this ultimately Valve just trying to get people to give Valve more money? And we'll go ahead and start with Travis on there. What do you think?
the resident Dota expert.
Yes.
Yeah. From what I understand, it's basically been debunked. It may be in some part a reaction to the fraud, which was it really ramped up during the last international, in that people would take stolen credit cards, or maybe the 2014 international, but people would take stolen credit cards, then they would go and they would buy compendiums and buy sets and such, and then they would resell them or whatever to basically launder the money. And that was a big problem, and Valve eventually got to the point that the banks or the credit card companies were threatening to pull the service from Valve. So Valve obviously needed to, do something about it, and the reasonable restriction would be a 2 to 3 week trade and market and gifting restriction on an item. But for some reason, and reasons that have been discussed very much, they put a 3-month time limit on basically all the items that you got from chests and such. And that basically, we've discussed this a lot, and it was we're thinking that it's kind of to give more time for the chest items to sell at the market price, for the chest to sell at the market price, or the price that Valve sells, until that 3 months is up and people can sell them on the market and the price drops really low, because of how chests work in Dota 2, which is you pay for a chest. You open it, you get a random item out of the chest, whether or not you want it or not. What would happen before was you would have people buy a bunch of chests, because there was, as you buy chests, it would tally off the items in the chest and you wouldn't get duplicates. But there's a chance that you got like a rare and an ultra rare item out of the chest that you could, get duplicates of and such. And they weren't guaranteed. So you would have these people that would buy a bunch of the chests to try to get these ultra rare items, or they would buy chests until they get the item that they want, and then they would sell everything else on the market, and it would drop the price of the item, and people who weren't interested in the gambling could just go get items for a lower price on the market. Well,
that reminds me of another game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Valve seems to have put a stop to that. And it basically, if you go back in time, basically, and watch a bunch of their the videos on Valve marketing and things that they talk about, this behavior goes against everything that Valve has talked about in their marketing stances and their marketing research. It completely is opposite of what they said worked.
Yeah.
I just think how it's...
and it's not just Dota, it's a lot of other things I've noticed with Valve policies lately. We've had the paid mods issue, all sorts of stuff. That it seems like Valve is getting...
Paid mods isn't over either. I'll be back.
Valve is getting they seem to be moving away from, let's make our customers happy.
People need to watch Valve
as much as we can to not, make sure they don't feel like we're screwing them over. We offer a service, a better service than the pirates. Make people feel good about purchasing.
Valve's getting very complacent.
Well, and the thing is you look at it, is that a lot of the changes I notice Valve making, usually they seem to have known the idiom of the classic idiom of throwing a frog in a pot of boiling water. If you throw it in the pot of boiling water, it jumps out immediately. But if you set it in cold water and then slowly heat it up, it'll sit there and boil to death. They previously, like in a lot of these microtransaction things, they seem to be made them slowly over time. The paid mod things, this is a perfect example of it. They dropped it on everybody, and the recoil reaction was they hate it. Now, in my opinion, as far as paid mods go, I have no problem, and I've said this before, no problem with people that make mods getting their money. If you're good at something, you do something well, you should get your money.
My biggest problem is just the fact that once you start trying to sell the stuff in that kind of setting, it opens it up for legal issues. Well, that's my biggest...
Well, here's my main thing, is that there's mods being sold for Dota 2, for Team Fortress 2, that sort of thing. And CSGO, obviously. Those all already have a mod market. And I can't remember, does Valve own CSGO now?
Yes, they always have.
Okay, so they own those games. So people creating and selling mods on Steam for those games, then there is a legitimate reason for Valve to take a cut. My personal problem is when they try to do it for Skyrim. Valve does not own Skyrim. I have no problem.
Frankly, Bethesda shouldn't be taking a cut either, though.
Well, I personally think it's fine if Bethesda took a cut.
No.
And the reason why is because they own the IP. It's kind of you paying your dues to them. It's a licensing fee, if you want to call it that, because you're making money off of someone else's IP, even though it's your original derivative work. Derivative work doesn't necessarily have fair use assigned to it.
That's why I don't. That's why I'm against the paid mods, is because it just snowballs.
Yeah,
it starts off as something reasonable
into a lot of issues. It opens up a lot of possibility for damaging the the modding scene in general. You can stick with the donation scheme.
Donation system's a lot better,
which is less. It's less guaranteed. It's less direct, but it has the amount of problems is so much less than going with a direct paid system.
Yeah, but a lot of them, here's my thing, is that I know a couple people that are modders for Skyrim, and I'll
they
be
put in a lot
honest,
of work. They put in a lot of work, and
they put in tons of work, and the amount of donations they get is next to nothing.
They should be paid for their work, but again, the problem when you set up the official thing is I feel like the moment you open that door, it will be abused by the big companies.
Actually, it's not actually my worry of the big companies abusing it. My worry is actually more of what we saw with the two
average
problems.
Joe's reselling mods.
Yeah, you have these scammers that essentially take a mod that's being sold free elsewhere and resell it on Steam as if it's their own work.
People creating low effort mods and
trying to sell
the guys
mods.
that took all the mods
and sold them.
This is why I'm generally against it. There's just so many issues that come up with paid modding that just.
My personal favorite, the literal pile of crap mods that came up on...
No, the Skyrim mod, add an extra apple to the tavern, bar. It was literally a mod that all it did was add an apple and put it on the bar in the, inn.
But that's kind of the Steam humor, though, there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek humor.
It is, but it shows it's an example of what
that was an example of the community's reaction and opinion on paid mods, and I feel that it got the message across quite well.
Mm-hmm.
Steam has a way of doing that.
Bethesda and Steam sat up and they were in their excuse for the paid modding was we want to help these guys get paid, but everyone knew it was no, it's about you guys wanting to take another cut.
If you wanted to help them get paid, you wouldn't have taken the biggest cut.
Exactly. And that was the other thing, is again, coming back to the, whether or not you want
Morty,
Bethesda get a cut.
I don't think Bethesda should get a cut. I'm
okay with Bethesda getting a small cut.
No,
I'm okay with Bethesda and Valve getting small cuts.
Well,
why should they create DLC and content when they can just let the modding community do it and then leech money off them?
Well, what were you saying, Travis?
I think that a really a better way to go about this is to do what a lot of companies have done in the past, in that you take and you as a company curate some of the most popular best mods. You work with the modders to improve them and then get them up to market spec, and then you put them on the market, as an improved, overarching thing. You actually go and you work with you don't make a marketplace, you go directly to the modders and work with them and be like, hey guys, we like your ideas. Let's work with you and turn this into something big that we can both get paid for.
Well, here's and this is kind of my straight up opinion on it is, and the reason why I don't have mind Bethesda getting a cut, but why I had a problem with Valve saying they wanted the biggest cut of it. It was like, if I remember right, it was like the modder gets 30%.
After
and then
$100 sold.
Yeah, and then the 70% of it was like 40% went to Valve and 30% went to Bethesda or something like that. And it was like, wait, what? And what is Valve doing? Hosting it? I can go to Nexus and have it hosted. If I'm a modder, why the fuck am I paying Valve to do nothing? Now, if Valve wanted to curate, okay, then they earn their fucking money's worth. But don't fucking try to charge money for doing nothing. That's not how it works. And that's, I think, the biggest backlash with the modders was, what are you doing, Valve? What are you doing? You're just want to sit back and watch the money roll in?
Really, Bethesda they make the game. They make their money off selling the game. They create their content that they sell for the game. It just feels like the moment they're allowed to be just taking cuts from all the modders, it's like, why would they create DLC or expansions? Like, they make the game. Sit back and
that
rake
particular
in the money.
argument's fallacious because there's no the correlation. Like, you don't have any precedents to set that on. There's been no instance ever of a developer saying, well, we're not going to create DLC now because modders do it for us. No, there's no instance.
Because they don't get paid for it currently.
There's been some
really try.
Again, you can't say that because there's literally no proof that would ever happen. There's no proof that it wouldn't, but there's no proof that there would.
My argument is still just businesses like to snowball when they see an opportunity to make money.
There's no direct proof of that, but there is some anecdotal evidence of companies with bugs relying on their user base modding to fix it.
Fallout 3.
New Vegas even.
Bethesda has... Now, here's the thing, is that this is, again, where the anecdotal evidence doesn't add up because, okay, yes, there were bugs for like, say, Skyrim, for example. Huge modding community, right? There was tons of bugs in that game. And there were some that are still in the game that are fixed by mods. But Bethesda did actually go and patch certain mods, certain bugs that were in the game. They did go through and fix them. So it wasn't a matter of, oh, the modders did it, we don't have to worry about it. No, they still went through and fixed it. They just didn't get everything before they ended support for it. Which that's something that happens with a lot of games. Look at Mass Effect, for example. No mods in Mass Effect.
Well, I still just, as much as I would like to see these people get paid for their work, I still see the advent of paying for mods as I think it just ruins the entire...
And the thing is that also does not mean that a mod has to be sold for money. You can still give away mods for free.
Yeah,
it just gives them the option to sell it if they want. And there's still a lot of mod makers that would sell or give free shit away because they want people. Most importantly, they want people to use their stuff. They put a lot of time and passion into it. They're not necessarily greedy. The greedy ones are the ones that are like, "Hey, I made a sword. That'll be $20."
I just feel like there's so much room for things to go wrong with paid modding. Like, there's so many ways it can just snowball and get worse in some.
But there's so many ways that anything can go wrong. You don't hold back progression because of that.
Going back to the overall attitude and behavior of Valve in recent times, I'd like to see a timeline as to when Valve's resident economist left house, as to when, because for me, it seems like when he left, whoever they got in after him started all of this snowballing downhill.
Yeah.
It seems like a lot of the problems started whenever he left.
Well, that and as I understand it, their executive structure is, as they call it, flat. In other words, they don't really have a
non-existent?
hierarchy. Yeah, they don't really have a hierarchy. It's like everybody's equal. Yeah, that works
Doesn't
in
really work.
theory, but never in reality. Never in reality does that ever work. You know, like, sorry, you have to have people that are directors that are in charge of certain things that press people for deadlines or for quality and that sort of thing. You can't just be like, well, guys, I guess we'll, do we want to do this today? You know, that's not, this isn't ancient Greece. We don't have, companies should not be organized as a direct democracy where every person has an equal vote and say in the company. No, you have to have people that are in charge of things to keep things on task. Valve obviously does not have that. But let's go ahead and get moving on to a slightly less sore topic here. Let's go ahead and talk about our evergreen topic for the day, which is kind of our consumer expectations in gaming in general. Like, versus like whenever you were younger or even in the past several years versus, you know, nowadays, like as far back as you can remember, or, you know, like I said, you know, last console generation or whatever. What were the expectations then versus how are they now? You know, have you seen the kind of market expectations change over the years? And we'll go ahead and start with you, Kevin.
I think consumers have changed more than anything else. Like when I was a kid, I expected my game to work. I expected to get a good value for my game. I expected some good content. Now I feel like everybody's trying to kind of defend companies trying to make money. Well, these anti-consumer things like what was the Deus Ex pre-order? It's okay because they're supposed to make money. They're just trying to find a way to make money. The 300 microtransactions in Tomb Raider. It's okay because they're trying to make money. That's what I hear a lot.
They're here to make a profit. So
but you don't make a profit by fucking over the consumer.
Yeah. And like I said, I've been all for, like, you know, you guys have heard my arguments many times of, you know, they have to make their profit, which is fine. DLC and microtransactions are not inherently evil, but there are evil ways to do them, and that's the thing. Like Payday 2's nonsense with the lockbox keys. I'm sorry, that's the worst thing they could have done. But anyway, yeah.
I think that, like when we talk about microtransactions, I think like Destiny, where they're giving you dances and character movements. Like, yeah, okay, everybody likes to dance in Destiny.
Yeah,
yeah. It's like, but who cares? Like, if I don't want to take part in it, I don't have to buy it.
Yeah,
you know,
it doesn't affect your game at all.
Exactly. Like I see something like that, or I see something like, sorry, my phone's going off, and like it won't stop.
Oh,
I haven't done the hit off.
Kev's fired.
I know, right? But or something like Halo with these requisition packs, where people, you know, they're giving you bonuses and stat upgrades. Yeah, you can earn them, but the fact that you can buy them really kind of screws up game balance. Well, but I've seen people defend it.
Yeah.
Like wholeheartedly, and I'm like, there is no defending things like that.
Well, can you remember a time whenever, like, if such a practice was in place where people would not defend it? Because obviously, the advent of DLC and microtransactions are a relatively new development. I can't really think of a game that had that, like, you know, 10, 20 years ago.
I can't think of it in terms of games, but you think about how much people really stood up for consumer rights, say in like the 90s or even like the late 80s.
Yeah.
Again, people stood up for that a lot more. People would stand against corporations a lot more. It wasn't unheard of for people to boycott a company and it not be a controversial thing because they wanted better and the company wasn't listening. That's why when so many people talk about like Batman Arkham Knight and they get pulled from Steam, and you hear people that kind of, they're cheering it, like, well, console fanboys in particular, they're cheering, they're saying it's a bad thing. And I'm like, bravo, we took control of the situation and we demanded better.
Well, like,
you don't see that very often anymore.
It just baffles me when I see, like, the same thing with the Batman Arkham Knight, when you saw the console players sitting there being happy and they were like, oh, those PC guys deserved it. I'm looking at them like, we're
deserve it
fellow
for playing on PC.
we're fellow consumers. Are you really happy that one consumer base that just happened to not be you got screwed over? Isn't it bad because they could do the same thing to you at any time?
That's
But
definitely
a lot of them don't see it that
a
way.
new evolution. Like I can remember back in the day, like the console wars between Sega and
Yeah.
Nintendo. Like
It's never this bad.
you know, and the thing is, the funny thing about it is people owning a like a Sega versus like because I had friends that owned Sega, and you know, I myself, well, my brother and I had a Nintendo and a Super Nintendo and all that stuff. But there wasn't like the animosity of, oh, you own a Sega. What a little chump. The Sega's inferior to the Nintendo, blah, blah, blah. You never heard that. Nobody cared.
I had a friend. I had a friend, Sean, when I was a kid. He lived in the apartment I lived in. He lived in the next building over. I had a Sega. He had a Super Nintendo. So you know what we did? Whenever we want to play Mario, we went to his house. Yep. Yeah, he would come to my house. Because Mortal Kombat was better in my opinion, was better on Sega with the 6-button controller.
Yep.
We played it at my house. And then when we wanted to play maybe Street Fighter, I felt like Street Fighter was better on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, or
that's how we did things.
Yeah, and the thing is that you notice it was just about, oh, you've got something different, like playing Sonic. I remember my first time playing Sonic. I was like, oh, this is so different. People would say it was just like Mario. No, it's different.
It's nothing like Mario.
Exactly, it's completely different. And I'm like, oh, okay. But so essentially, your thing is the change that you've noticed is with consumers kind of defending corporations rather than defending the consumer.
Right. And I'm wondering if that even came because, you know, back in the day, you know, it was considered, you know, kind of cliche to, you know, if you were a console gamer, maybe to have one console. You know, that was the thing. Like, you didn't have both because then you were considered crazy.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people now, they want to have both, but they can't afford both because console gaming is a lot more expensive than it was 20 years ago. In some respects.
Well, and the thing is there's so many cross-platform games now, though, whereas back in the day there wasn't near. Yeah. You know, like when you talk about the big games of Nintendo versus Sega, they were usually unique. I mean, you had a couple, like you said, Mortal Kombat, you know, was on both, but a large majority of the games made were exclusive to each console.
Yeah, like Sega had so many exclusives, and that was why I loved it.
Well, yeah, but Nintendo also had so many exclusives. Oh, yeah. They both did.
They did too. I'm saying because I jumped ship from the NES to the Genesis, so I think I jumped ship to almost every generation except from PS1 to PS2. That's the only time where I stayed the same.
Mm-hmm. So Joe, what's something you've noticed change in your experience? You know, where essentially you've seen some like an expectation or an attitude of a consumer change over the years, like from you being a kid to now.
It's like
Joe's still a kid. Joe, you want to drink yet?
Yeah,
my oldest memories.
Well, just remember we've got the youngest guy left yet. So
yeah. I forgot Travis was younger than Joe.
Even still, the thing is I want to point out that Joe's not just because Kev and I are older and we can remember, you know, gaming with those older consoles, doesn't mean that Joe couldn't have seen a change. That's why I'm posing it to everybody.
I'm giving Joe a bad time because you said he was a kid.
Well, even I'm like, I can't say too much. Like, people's expectations change over time. I can't. I'm trying to think of something specifically to kind of describe it.
Well,
I think there was less fans.
Let's gear to your specialty. So people's expectations on microtransactions, DLCs, has that changed from when you were a kid?
That's changed somewhat in that DLC. Like, I'm not even to say from when I was a kid, but like DLC in the last 2 years has become something. Like, at first it was something that people were wholly against, but I've seen as good DLCs come out and as people have kind of realized that DLC can be done right, I've seen some people be more willing to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I'm also seeing more and more acceptance towards microtransactions in games that you pay for, and that saddens me.
Yeah,
doesn't bother me at all.
It bothers me depending on what it is in the game. Like, I don't like the pay-to-win model.
Yeah, no.
I think that's what bothers most people.
I'm wholly against anything Perfect World comes out for a payment method. So we'll just leave it at that. But so Travis, in your experience with your You're what are you, like 15 years old, right?
It might be that old.
But so have you noticed any changes in the expectations of consumers when it comes to games?
I really don't want to open up the can of worms that is the whole casual connotation, but I feel like
Go for it. Go for it.
Have at it.
I feel like that's a conversation that needs to be had because I feel that there was a paradigm shift in the consumer market in terms of people stopped playing either people stopped playing games that were inherently challenging or the developers saw that they could sell more if their games weren't as inherently challenging. It would open up a larger market. And personally, I flock towards games that give me a challenge, that make me think, that make me, that really push me, drive me to do better and get better at the game.
Mm-hmm.
And
you know what's funny when you say
that became increasingly difficult as time went on, and I wasn't very old when that started happening, but I can still remember, games that were more difficult.
What's funny is when you say that is like I'm kind of that guy, like, and I think especially like when you have like so many adult gamers, like I'm usually come home from work or whatever and I'm fried. The last thing, like, I don't want to overthink things sometimes. Like I have a tendency to anyway, but I don't want to overthink things. So sometimes, yeah, I don't want to play an overly challenging game. I just want to sit down, I want to relax, and I just want to enjoy the experience. And then when I want to challenge, I turn on like Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I can kind of get down with what Travis is saying, like the whole like you said, like casual as being an insult thing, or like the elitist. Or,
I feel like there's another there's another factor to that, Morty, and that some people are just being elitist and that's nonsense. But then there's also another the other factor that there's really, once this started happening, these difficult games kept getting harder and harder to come by, to the point that nowadays most high budget AAA titles
Or way too easy.
They don't offer any of this. So it went from there being a plethora to choose from to a scarcity of it, and the people that do enjoy that type of game are upset that they can't have this anymore in the same quality that these easy games, targeted towards large audiences are.
I wonder if it happened because of the paradigm shift from the arcades, because the arcades were designed, to get more
coins out.
Yeah, to get all your coins out, so they made it hard to sell. And then when when the arcade shifted to the consoles at home, they made the games just as difficult.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, well, let's add more and more and more to it.
I don't know.
And now I feel like they're trying to add more content, but they're trying to help you kind of burn through the content.
Partially,
I'd rather have a game with less content that's maybe a little more challenging than to have like a 90-hour RPG.
But I will say, with the challenging games, I think partially it's just people like to feel rewarded for having a high level of skill in a game. Like when you invest a great many hours into a game, you want to feel like you've been rewarded. So a game that requires that has a really high skill ceiling, it can start out easy enough for newer players, but be highly rewarding for people who actually invest the time.
So something like a MOBA, easy to learn, difficult to master.
Well, I would throw it out there actually along the lines of when you're talking the skill based thing. Actually, I think the consumer market as a whole has been developing into a kind of an attention whore. To be honest, it's all about that instant gratification. That's why Call of Duty became like the multiplayer became so popular, because
I'm not saying that's the
flashed
whole.
on how great you're doing.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's like on the whole people want that. I'm just saying there is the market for people who want the high skill ceiling.
But then again, there was also like Dark Souls. I love Dark Souls. Just was like life changing for me almost in a way that
I probably ended up playing it more than you.
Yeah.
Well, the thing I loved about Dark Souls, even with that, is
Well, the
you
reason I
felt
stopped.
great after you defeated an enemy.
Well,
It's especially once you got into the PvP and you saw how skilled some people were in
well,
that game.
well, I had an experience in Dark Souls in that I started up the game.
Okay, where did he
I
touch you?
Yeah, FromSoft touched me in all the bad places, and I loved it. Um, but what
I
happened
missed that
was
joke, and
They
I'm
are
disappointed that I did.
Japanese.
I started up the game. I had no idea what I was doing. And, I got to the shrine. I got through the first part. I tried to kill the boss, and I failed. So I eventually went on. Through where I found where I was supposed to go, and I got to the first. Can't remember what I'm talking about now.
That first bonfire?
No, not the first bonfire. The first other area you go to.
Are you talking about the first one or the second one?
Yeah, Fire Shrine or
Oh, he's
whatever.
talking about the first one, Firelink.
Yeah,
Okay.
Firelink Shrine. Yeah, and yeah, my mind just went there. But what I did whenever I went from there was I tried to go through the cemetery,
Everyone did that.
and
Except for-
that was not where you're supposed to go. And I just kept getting blasted as I went through there. And eventually, I learned the combat system, and I was able to kill the skeletons more and more. And then I got to the big skeletons, and they Shrek'd me. So then I decided. Then I had a moment where I thought, huh. Maybe
I should go the other way.
Yeah, maybe this isn't where I'm supposed to go, because I've been used to for such a long time, such a large portion of my life, the easy games that are just like go here, do this,
Skyrim,
win.
cough.
Yeah,
Or especially like open world games where in Dark Souls, I think in every way is an open world game. Hey, go wherever you want. And
yeah,
Dark Souls, if you go wherever you want, it'll kick your ass.
yeah. And so I went the right way, and that was like it was such a big deal to me. Like I had to sit down and think about that for a second, about how amazing of a design that is. How you don't physically, you don't use invisible walls to physically block off your player from going somewhere, but at the same time you don't, or you don't use an impossible to pass enemy. It's entirely possible to go through that area.
What's nice is it also rewards people who are very experienced with the game.
Yeah.
It allows them to take shortcuts and to become more powerful earlier on if they so desire.
Well,
What I love about Dark Souls is it's a game that makes you think, but it's one of those games that's like you're gonna die if you're stupid.
Yeah.
Like that's the best way to survive in Dark Souls is don't be stupid.
You have to be paying attention.
Well, let's go ahead and steer it back on topic here. I'll go ahead and talk about an expectation I've definitely seen. While like the two kind of points I guess we've gone on here is definitely valid. One of the expectations I've seen is kind of an expectation of two things. It's one, the marketing strategy of the game is the games are like, first of all, it's the expectation of the graphics have to be amazing, like, because the shift of AAA publishers has been, heavily on graphics. You hear like the point made about the whole casual thing or the console war thing that I was talking about, where, oh my gosh, the Xbox One renders this picture at 900p, or it's at 30 frames per second. These graphics, and by the way, those can be important, I agree, but the point is that you you look at Mario from 1990s. The graphics
I thought
were
they looked amazing
sprites.
back then.
Yeah, the graphics were sprites. Well, no, when you compared it to like the quote unquote photorealistic Mortal Kombat, or hell, like when I played Mario RPG, I was like, oh my god, the graphics are so amazing because it's a 3-dimensional isometric game. Whoop-de-doo.
Right, yeah, because that was new back then. Like,
Yeah,
I've always been into graphics.
but the thing is that while graphics, the kind of growing thing on graphics is nice, it's kind of unfortunately taking a backseat to gameplay. Like, you look at Mario, the thing is, no one really cared about the graphics all that much. It wasn't that fantastic. What people loved was the simple yet challenging gameplay mechanic of it. Because literally, like, the gameplay could be very easy, or it could be insanely freaking hard. And it scaled you up as you progressed through the game. But the point is that it didn't need graphics. It was all about being a challenging platformer. And
I'm going to disagree with your point on graphics, because we see a lot of games that don't look that great that see a lot of success, especially these indie titles, or something like we were talking about Dark Souls before, or Bethesda games.
That's literally been within the last year. I'm talking like, over the course of my life, I saw it like early on. Nobody gave a shit about graphics. Towards more recently things, people were all about graphics. Screw gameplay. Graphics is all I care about. Hence the, oh my gosh, the Xbox One is so inferior because it's 900p. It's like, oh fuck, I was playing games that were rendering at like below what standard definitions compared with, like they're, like HD. What is this? So it's like whenever I hear that like argument thrown up as the thing, my first thing is, yes, but how does the game actually look? I don't care about the resolution. The frame rate can be important, yes, but show me the actual damn game. Let me see how it plays. How fluid does it feel? Am I going to notice that resolution? Chances are probably not. Unless I have a 900-inch TV, in which case then yeah, you probably notice it. But now recently with Indie Revolution kind of happening, you're seeing games that are like Pillars of Eternity, for example, is a great example of that, of a game that is going with an older style of play. I mean, the graphics aren't bad by any means in that game, but it's harkening back to like Diablo days, the isometric RPG, and people ate the game up. Like they loved it because it was playing a lot on people's nostalgia, but then also the younger audience.
Obsidian's writing is great.
Yeah, but it got a chance for people that are younger to experience that as well. Those are still, though, a very small portion of the market. When you look at the games that are coming out,
it's self-sustaining enough, though.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad. I want the indie market to continue to thrive. I want more indie developers out there because they come up with new concepts, new ideas, like
Shovel Knight.
Obsidian's not
Shovel
even.
Knight.
Yeah, Shovel Knight was awesome.
Invisible Ink. Invisible Ink is a fantastic game. I recommend on people. It's a great strategy game that kind of. The art style of it's really cool. I really like the art style of it. You get a lot of these unique games coming out of indie developers.
That's why I love indies. It's like, and I don't understand how people say, for example, I hate the term real gamer, because real gamers like games that we enjoy gameplay, but these AAA games are very rinse and repeat.
That's the second thing, the consumer expectation that I've seen change is in the definition of gamer. And without getting too much into the Gamergate thing with the whole gamers are dead, but I've seen that, like, when I was a kid, being a gamer was for kids. If you're an adult and you're a gamer, parents thought you might have been weird. That, like, I remember there was a neighbor I had, when I was a kid who he was adult. He worked. He was a successful, normal, operating adult. But on the weeknights, when he would go out on the weekends because he was still a bachelor. He was late 20s, early 30s. He was still a bachelor, and so on the weekends he would go out. But during the weeknights, he would stay at home and game because he had to work in the morning. And we went over there and gamed several times. And at one point, our parents were like, "What's his deal? Oh, is he a child molester?" That's literally the end. Yeah. The
some
opinion.
Some older folks actually still think that.
Well, yeah,
but I think the interesting transition is because now we were the kids.
Yeah.
After the crash.
We
are those kids.
Yeah, that's the truth of it. But when you look at it as now, even parents that didn't grow up as gamers, they still grew up in the now a lot of the younger parents out there that are have kids that are like 10 years old and below are around our age, or maybe a little bit older. They were around in the 80s when the first consoles started to get out. They were around when the arcade machines were a big thing. So they have seen and been exposed to gaming more, and it's not a shocking thing. And also the other expectation I've seen change hugely is the media outlets. It's almost expected now that a game comes out, someone has to do a playthrough on it. And I mean that as in, if it's a let's play, if it's just a walkthrough, a playthrough, whatever, there has to be...
First impressions.
Yeah, first impressions. There has, like, I've literally seen someone get furious at Angry Joe because he didn't have, a game review up on a particular game of their choice. Well, there's probably tons of people on Angry Joe channel, but that's point is that it's expected now that there needs to be some sort of media coverage in YouTube or Twitch or whatever. That has obviously completely changed because when I was a kid, what the hell is this YouTube thing? And even that's only been in the past maybe 10 years that YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube will be 10 years old next year in April.
Man,
yeah, so
it feels like YouTube has been around forever.
Yeah, 2000 April. I think
when you're my age, it feels like I can't remember a time in my life without YouTube. Honestly,
that's because you're 10 years old. So
right.
There literally hasn't been a time in your life when there wasn't YouTube.
YouTube's always been there.
So I just want to throw it out there. The drinking age in England is 18 in most areas. So
in Canada too.
Travis still can't drink there,
which is why I said legally speaking, or like like justifiably or morally or
honestly,
logically.
It's kind of ridiculous that the drinking age is still 21, and I'm saying that as someone who doesn't.
Oh no, you know what? Coming from an outside perspective, I completely agree because American teens are immature as hell compared to other countries in the world. So
yeah, but I don't count. Like I don't know. I don't.
We just talk about how it's still ridiculous.
But let's not get into this topic too much on here because that has nothing to do with gaming whatsoever.
You can get shot. You can get shot in a war, but can't have a beer.
It sounds like we need a second podcast, Morty.
Yeah, let's
talk politics.
Let's not do that.
Let's not do that because it's the SMH on that. Anyway, let's go ahead and give our closing thoughts on here. So Kev, let's go ahead and start with you. Give us your closing thoughts for the day.
My closing thoughts, Fallout season is upon us. Halo's coming out. That's great and all, but I am purely focused on Fallout. Check out my channel, of course, and the official WeGameHere.com. You can look me up, Kev the Gamer. And yeah, that's all I've got. Just waiting for Fallout.
Yep. All right, and you, Joe?
Not much, really. Dead Space is still fun. If you haven't played it, go play it.
Curse you, Overkill!
Oh, you can't forget Curse you,
Overkill got even worse.
And Bethesda for going the Konami route.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what about you, Travis? Go ahead and give us your closing thoughts.
I just can't wait to get back to choosing my avian lover.
Lord help him. How did your girlfriend feel about that?
With him.
She's actually playing it with me.
She's a keeper.
Yeah, well, if the couple that games together stays together. Any case, so in any case, you guys know me if you're watching on Kev's channel here. I'm Angelus de Mortiel. That's Mortiel, and I do a bunch of video walkthrough guides and all that. Currently finishing up my October series on the Warframe Apocalypses. Definitely check that out. I put a lot of time into that, and I think you guys will like that. Otherwise, I'll be coming out with some new Dragon Age Inquisition content coming up November, and so that's happening. And then hopefully there will be some other cool stuff on the horizon as well. But anyway, we'll go ahead and sign off for this week. So once again, we will catch you all next time on the Pixel Crashers podcast.
Praise Gaben.
Bye.
No, we're not going to stop this podcast. We just got done talking about how Valve is bad, and you're going to praise Gaben. Stop it. Come up with a new joke.
But I already said bye.
Yeah.
See you guys.
I do it every week just to catch
All right, guys. Bye-bye now.